DonInLondon, hello. It's August 21st. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substances or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour, equally addictive around people, places and things. Trying to be with the right people, in the right place, with the right things and doing the right things. In other words, trying to be a part of life. But instincts gone to extraordinary, I suppose, what's the word? Out of proportion to reality. Instincts to not only survive but to have the best, to be the best. All this stuff about perfection. And driven by 100 forms of fear of not being able to fit in. Or just simply live a life which is worthwhile. Somehow I felt I needed to overcome great obstacles, and the great obstacle was me. So these days, no drink inside me, sober one day at a time, to varying degrees of success in terms of emotional and spiritual understanding. So emotional for me is knowing what my feelings are, and my feelings fitting what's going on. And the spiritual is the ability to cope with now. Many people see spiritual as more than that, but we are basically built to live in the present moment. Evolution or revolution, or by grand design, we seem to work best and operate best when we live in the moment and our feelings fit reality, rather than what we think reality ought to be, what we think we ought to be. So what helped me over the years survive, I guess, and overcome fear? I was given a drink very early in my life, and it changed the way I felt. And from there on in, I realised, subconsciously or consciously, somehow or other, that if I took a drink, it took the pain away, it took something away from me. And I didn't realise it was taking away my natural understanding of life. Nurture had made me fearful, nature had made me fearful when fear was there. So out of proportion in many ways. Gradually over time, in sobriety, my feelings fit reality, so I'm back on track most of the time. But things can throw us off. Bad times, difficulties, ailments. And the interesting thing, even though I have more chronic ailments than I ever imagined I would have and still be alive, I am here and I'm able to cope with now. Cope as best I can. I need to take account of what is happening to me. So what's made all this possible? Well, I tried on my own, my family tried to help me, professionals tried to help me, community services tried to help me, and to an extent they did. I was softened up to realise I could not do this on my own. And then came along a society or fellowship, and I don't know quite how it works, but I became a fellow in the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, just one of many. And what I realise today, it is the many voices in recovery, sharing experience, strength and hope, which makes the difference in my life. So whether I'm happy or sad, joyful or completely at odds with life, if I go to a meeting of the fellowship, I hear some wisdom, I can share about how I feel, and people can help me if I ask for help. So these days I'm more likely to ask for help than think I have to do it on my own, stand on my own 2 feet, put on a brave face, have a stiff upper lip, all those things which got in the way of finding out the truth of now. Because the more isolated I felt, the more I felt I had to do it and prove it. So it's not about proving anything really these days, it's about being included, how to be a part of life, and just simply finding out who I am on a daily basis. So if I know a little bit more about what makes me tick by the end of the day, keeps me in the moment, I feel like life is happening. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, the foundation of my recovery, like I say, is the many voices in recovery which make the difference. So I'm just one voice. And that means I don't speak for AA, never can, never will. It's full of unique, authentic people who share what they will, where they will, when it suits them. But I share here on video, asked and answered, so I can say what's working for me, how the 12-step program works for me, how the traditions work for me in recovery, and work for everyone in a slightly different way, because we're all on a slightly different journey. We are unique and authentic where we are today, and people aren't in the same place in their life history. Lot is going on, and people in the fellowship range from early teens to late octogenarians and beyond, I guess. Some people one day sober, some people decades sober. So we all bring something to share when we go to a meeting of the fellowship. So what is fellowship? On this little card, the actual definition of what is AA and what it does in meetings. And it says this, and I read it rather than recite it, because if I recite it I'll probably stumble on some part which is making me ache or feel good about what's inside me. So this is what AA says at the beginning of every meeting, and it's a fellowship of people, not superhuman perfect people, just ordinary people in recovery. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So the purpose behind my videos is to share experience, strength and hope of what's working for me, and maybe in a general way what I learn on a daily basis. And part of what I learn, what keeps me on track, is having time to meditate, maybe 5 or 10 minutes in the morning or longer, if need be, on what's happening to me and what's happening in the world, and how I may be included. And what do I need to do to make life work? Not make it, but live life, so it works. Live life and it's working. Well, one of the books which I often refer to daily is this one, Daily Reflections, and it's a daily reading which is about the 12-step program and the 12 traditions of AA. So 365 pages, concentrates on one step a month. August is all about step 8, about making a list of amends and being willing to make them all. So that comes from our life story in step 4. It all works together. With our 12 steps, we learn them as we go, and then we put them into practice in our lives. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean that we are continually having to go back to a reference book. What we find is, as we learn about the 12 principles, they become a way of life, a way of living, open, honest and willing, and an understanding that it's okay to be me and in recovery, and it's okay to be you and in recovery. And where you share about it is where you share about it. It's your own business. So there are no rules or laws or regulations which say you must, you should, you ought. And that can be contentious, because people tend to take the 12 steps and 12 traditions as tablets of stone, I suppose a bit like the 10 Commandments coming down off a hill. But it's not quite like that. Either we live and practice the steps and understand the traditions which keep the fellowship healthy. But one of the words in the fellowship title, anonymous, is sacrosanct, because the rooms of AA, or the meetings of AA and the groups of AA are anonymous, as we choose. And it's also a personal choice around anonymity. It's not a rule, it's not a law, it's not a regulation. There's only one suggestion around why be in AA, and that is for people with a desire to stop drinking. And if there were rules, laws and regulations, doubtful that anybody would make it, or make the cut, as it were. So we're all lucky, we're all in recovery, we're allowed to do what we're allowed to do, that is, live life, work it out, and see how we turn out each day. And so the daily reflection today, which is allied to step 8, making this list of amends, based on our life story where things have gone wrong, and being willing to make them. And it's a willingness to make them. It's not actually doing them yet. That comes in step 9. August 21st. We just try. My stability came out of my trying to give, not out of demanding that I receive. And that comes from The Best of Bill Wilson, one of the co-founders. As long as I try with all my heart and soul to pass along to others what has been passed along to me, and do not demand anything in return, life is good to me. Before entering this program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was never able to give without demanding something in return. Little did I know that once I began to give freely of myself, I would begin to receive, without ever expecting or demanding anything at all. What I receive today is the gift of stability. As Bill did, stability in my AA program with myself, but most of all in my relationship with my higher power, whom I choose to call God. And my feelings on that, Gandhi suggested God is truth. So truth in the moment of now, and God is love, God works through people. Seems to be a good way for me to understand it. What we come to believe is our personal understanding and not something imposed by anyone upon another human being or their path of life today. Faith in truth, love and wisdom may be where we start with a higher power, rather than our own outlook as being the higher power. So, for me, it doesn't matter whether you're atheist, agnostic or believer in God, the program can work for you. When I enter a room of AA with 5 to 50 or 100 people in it, I know the wisdom in that room is far more than I ever can live in my life. So I try listen, and if I have something to say or share, I share it. And last night it was good because it made me realise something. I always get something from meetings and I know quite what it's going to give me, but I was very lucky because it was a very sober person over here in the UK on a stay, but a person who was born in the UK coming back to visit friends and family in fellowship. And so last night it reminded me, atheist, agnostic or believer in God. By design we are built to live in the moment. Every human is built to live in the moment. Whatever reason we are here, and whatever the purpose is, or whatever we determine the purpose is for ourselves, or simply the purpose is to live as best we can. Whether it is nature, evolution, or grand design, we have instincts. Well, we all have instincts. We're no different from the animals in that respect. And we have emotions. If our emotions or feelings fit the present moment, most often we are in reality, and I put a question mark next to that. So if our feelings fit the present moment, what is going on, and our feelings fit with what is going on, happy, sad, wonderful, horrible, whatever it happens to be, every single emotion is informing us of what we are experiencing and what then we can think about doing about it. Today we may travel somewhere and wonder how we got there, or we may enjoy the journey or be on autopilot. Sometimes we can take a walk and wonder how we got to where we got to. But if we're in the moment and we're walking and experiencing it, or driving a car, or being on a bus, or being on a train, do we see what is around us, or do we daydream about what it could be, or what we want it to be, rather than experiencing what it is to be there? 12 steps keep me more grounded in the journey and reality and in the moment today. And that's so true. You know, not everything we experience is good, and still, like my next comment, London still in shock after the riots. Less people out and about at night enjoying the sights and sounds and the feel of the city is now different. It is different at the moment. It's sort of shrunk in on itself. Intuitively we know what's going on. It doesn't feel right at the moment. People are wary. I am grateful for where I live. Hope life returns to normal. That is extraordinary, ordinary. It's extraordinary, ordinary heartbeat. London is a vibrant place. It feels like it's had the stuffing knocked out of it at the moment, and so have the people. And for me, very grateful I have fellowship to keep me safe, more willing, open and honest, to keep going and not shut down, but be careful with myself and where I go. Service comes in many forms in the fellowship, around unity service and recovery. Inside and outside fellowship, I realise I am part of the bigger society today, and I refrain from saying the big society, because that's a label which is politically affiliated to a party I'm not part of. But we are all part of the society in which we live, and our way of responding and reacting to it depends on our life history, what has happened to us, our basic instincts, how we see the world. And the riots which ensued in recent times are an indication and an indictment of how people feel. Doesn't mean their feelings then translated into actions were right. In fact, law breaking took its toll on everyone, and it's indicative of where we are as a society, where those who have retain it and those who haven't don't have it. And it seems the gulf gets wider and wider. So I need to put that aside, because my ability to influence that is pretty small and outside my purview of life. I have enough to contend with in service in my community and in fellowship. I'm not a politician. Anyway, from previous years, so big things happen to us, but the 12 steps keep me on track. Help me see what I can and cannot do, and what I don't want to do. I certainly don't want to be a part of the riot, but I can see why people got involved. People who would otherwise be seen as decent human beings. So, previous years for me, 12 steps to live well, take action and learn from experience. We simply try to be ourselves and share the message of experience, strength and hope. In fellowship we lean on the many, never just one. As we may tumble, we need the many hands of AA to guide us to safe ground, today and every day. So it is actually fellowship and the many hands, the many people who turn up to meetings, maybe a small meeting or a big meeting. I go to so many, small ones, big ones, extra big ones, each with a purpose of sobriety, and then the rest of life and work. So I keep on getting wisdom, experience, strength and hope from others, and I need never forget that. It's not one voice in recovery which counts, but it might count one day. And if we rely on one person who we could then become dependent on, and this is where sponsorship is a very difficult area. If we depend on one person, we can pull them down rather than rise up with them. So it's always the many voices, the many people, the many contacts that we make that keeps us on an open, honest path in unity, service and recovery. And another year, and this is my final bit, in fellowship we help as we may. We are all equal in our rights and responsibilities, and I wish that was reflected in society, not the silence of the law, the legal people who keep us from telling the truth. That's not an indictment of legal people, it's an indictment of where we've got with our legal system. We may suggest, never instruct. We may shudder at another's path. It is not our own. Always freedom of choice, the path of spiritual and emotional well-being. Always rocks and hard places, as well as joy. Maybe all of those things today. So life is life, and I'm as shocked as anybody what's happened over the last few weeks. And the world is in turmoil. The world is hard pressed for resources, and as resources become more scarce, the more we try to keep stable and retain our choices. Yeah, a difficult society in which to live. But there is joy in there, as well as sadness. There's so much to experience on the journey, which is today, and not the destination, because we all know what the destination is. So sobriety works for me as best it may, as best I can. And what helps me in any moment is that serenity prayer, which is to God or good conscience, as you come to understand for yourself. And it will only work for you when you get a personal understanding of the can-do, can't-do serenity prayer. I can change my attitude and behaviour. I can live in the moment where feelings fit reality. The things I cannot do, I cannot change your attitude and behaviour and the way you want to live your life. I can't do that. It's outside my ability, and it would be wrong to suggest that it would be right for me to do it, in my own ethical opinion. So can do, can change me, can't do, can't change you. People, places and things most often. And it's the wisdom to know the difference which comes in living life, my personal experience, and listening to how other people deal with life as well, from fellowship and from anyone I may meet and encounter today. So the higher power is always the wisdom I get through people. So the serenity prayer, it slows me into the moment. So to God, or in good conscience, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, always for me, in the moment and just for today.